Hurry up, man. Thing is rolling. The picture's rolling. Silly. No. This is so professional, Brett.
Hell yeah, man. Look at us go.
What's up, y'all? My name is Ian Edwards, and welcome to the Soccer Comic Rant. Merry Christmas, everyone. Happy holidays. And some people are, say it's not just Christmas, it's all kinds of holidays, but Christmas is the real reason why you have time off from work. There's parties all month. You're being able to mail it in when going to work and not doing like your full work because everybody's in that mode, and it's the reason why everybody gets to see their families. It's not even the religious part of it. It's just the the fact that it's Christmas gives you time off, food, parties, helps you to gain weight, and all the fun stuff. So Merry Christmas for that. You know what I'm saying? And if you look around, the surroundings is a little bit different than it normally is. All Things Comedy shut down for 2 weeks, so the Comedy Store was gracious enough to let me use their podcast basement slash haunted hole below the top floor. And just get into the sponsor before I introduce my guest, OnTheVolleyApparel.com. It's Christmas time. It's not too late to go to OnTheVolleyApparel.com, and they have men's tanks, tees, hoodies, and sweatshirts for men and female. And they have, their hoodie selection is dope. They have a Tribe Called Quest. It's a soccer emblemed out Tribe Called Quest hip hop logo. They have the Wu-Tang hoodie with the soccer field in the Wu-Tang symbol. They have the OTVA. It's like the Drake joint. They have the Strike and Defend for men and women. So just go there to onthevalleyapparel.com. Use my promo code Comic Rant and get 20% off. Merry Christmas for that. Don't say I never gave you anything. And by coincidence, the producer of this episode is also going to be the guest of this episode. Everybody give it up for Brett Erickson. What's up, Brett?
Hey, Ian. Thanks for having me, man.
Pleasure for having you on.
Yeah, it was funny because you're like, "Hey, can I use the store?" And I'm like, "Sure, I'll be in. We'll do it." And then you actually found a soccer fan.
I know. Just plugging the wires in. I said, "Hey, man, this is gonna be like a crazy dude talking about soccer by himself." He's like, "That's cool. I'm into soccer." And I was like, "What? Get over here. Let's do this, baby." So you follow the Premiership?
Absolutely.
Oh, damn. And did you get a chance to see what went on this weekend?
I watched the Chelsea Tottenham match, and I watched it. I don't have cable, so I watch my English Premier League in Spanish.
Oh, so on what channel do you watch it?
Telemundo, I think it is on Saturdays and Sundays.
Is that free?
On Sundays, it's free.
That's
It's like I got one of those those digital antenna things that you get. It's like $20. So I get like KTLA and whatever, but I get a couple of Spanish stations. And the Sunday game, there's always a Saturday game on NBC, or usually, but the Sunday game I watch in Spanish, and that was Tottenham and Chelsea, so that was pretty good.
Well, and that's the first game that I want to talk about because it was one of the biggest matches this week. Jose Mourinho, he used to be the coach for Chelsea. He won them 2 titles. He's been fired from there twice. He's won titles from them 3 times. He left, went to other countries, came back, went to Man U, got fired from there. Now he's got the Tottenham job, so he has to face one of his old clubs, one of the places that he staked out his earlier successes as a manager, and he has to go back and face them. Tottenham, since he's been a manager, has won, I think, their last 4 out of 5 in the Premier League, which he's improved their form. And now he has to go up against his old club, and he has to coach against Frank Lampard, which was one of his old players who helped him win those titles. But even before we get into that, let's go straight from Merry Christmas to racism.
Yeah, that seemed to be all anyone was talking about at the end of that game.
Yeah, like, Mourinho lost, but lucky for him, racism will steal the headline from the loss.
Yeah, what the fuck is going on with soccer in Europe with that? I mean, it just seems, it's crazy to me. As many problems as America has, it doesn't seem like in sports we have that one like that.
But we do have racism in this
country. Oh, without a doubt, but not
and soccer's just what pops up in soccer pops up in the world.
Hmm.
So to me, I'm not surprised. If there's racist people in the world, there's going to be racist soccer fans. You know what I
Hmm.
mean?
Yeah,
And
of course.
at least, at least we have soccer in common. So I would say I would think I would never have anything in common with a racist, but apparently I do. We are passionate about the same sport. And I don't know if they were being racism because the chant started after Rudiger. He didn't cause Son to get a red card.
Uh-huh.
Son did that himself. So the racism might be packaged also with what happened to Son when Spurs went down to 10 men.
Yeah, Rudiger, as they say, made the most of it.
Yeah.
He looked like he'd been, sniped from the stands. So, but he didn't make Son do what he did.
Exactly.
And once you go to VAR, which they did,
Right.
and you look at it over and over, and you see him move his leg up the guy's chest, you're like, that's going to be a red card every time.
Yeah, he did not ask for um, vertical foot massage
Right?
with
Yeah.
soccer boots. And
Yeah.
you have to play, in England, there's CCTV cameras all over the place.
Uh huh.
And that's what VAR is.
Right.
It's like the CCTV cameras on the
Yeah.
soccer field. Listen, man, if you're just watching sports, as a fan, you know you can't get away with things.
Right.
And if you're playing it, you should know there's nothing you're going to do as a player that you're going to be able to get away with. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And Son was lucky, like maybe a month ago now, to not get a red when he fouled, what was that player from Everton? Gomez, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And it caused a horrific injury. And I understand that. And then Son was like so what's the word, like you felt for him the pain
Yeah.
then, but then
Yeah.
I see him doing some of the same actions now, and I'm like, wait, is this guy just an act?
It seems weird because up until that Everton game, there had never been a history with this guy of being a
Right.
dirty player. He always seemed like, oh, he's, and I don't know if was a cultural thing, but he seemed like this, like polite,
Yeah.
good sporting, like Asian, like this is the way we play with honor,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah. And
You
if
know?
you, I guess if you're Asian and you do this, people believe it. So
Yeah, but yeah, that the thing he did to Rudiger was not that.
yeah,
That was an obvious, dirty play.
it was a dirty play on a clean play. There was contact. He went down. Rudiger did not foul him, so you didn't have to lash out like that, especially in a moment when your team is down 2 goals. Like, what are you doing? You're never gonna
Hmm.
get away with that. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And maybe he's trying to cash in on his positive, like, vibe. He's trying to cash in on how people feel about him as a player, his innocence, and try to get away with that. But
Hmm.
cameras override
Right.
that shit. And then after that, that's when I don't know if Rudiger was getting the monkey chance before, but he definitely signaled that he was getting them afterwards. And my thing is, I said this on other podcasts, like if your fans chant monkey chants, team lose points on the season. Like whether
Yeah.
it's 1 point or 2 point, like the fans need to know everybody's a part of the team. So if the player does something on the pitch, like Son did something on the pitch, he gets a red card, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And he has to pay for that. He's out for 3 games.
Right.
So if the fans do something to hurt the team, since the fans want to be such a big part of their team, like they pay the money, then
Uh-huh.
they have to be held accountable too, and the team should lose points.
What about this possibility? And I've thought about that because I was having a conversation with someone yesterday about this very thing,
Mm-hmm.
and we were talking about that exact idea that you either lose points or you just forfeit the game. You lose all three in the game, even if you're ahead, you lose whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And because European fans and hooligans are such assholes sometimes and
Right.
will do anything for their team, would you run the risk then of people pretending to be
Yeah.
fans of the other team to try to get the other team to lose
But you
points?
do a thorough investigation. Like
Yeah.
there's cameras all over the place.
Right.
So somebody, I understand that somebody might go into the other fan section
Right.
and chant.
Right.
But once you identify that person,
Yeah.
you can trace where their fan history is. If they've been coming to the game, if they're season
Mhm.
ticket holders, if they just came to infiltrate. and then you can after like you know how they investigate things for months.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but or like somebody will have a red card and then they'll appeal it and they'll hold off the ban until the further
Right.
investigation. You can find out if somebody you know was hired or just went there. You know you don't have to take the points
Mm-hmm.
right away
Yeah.
until like conclusive evidence
I
is there.
I'd be for that at just on the level that there has to be some sort of consequences.
Yeah.
Just continually making announcement over the PA that hey, you guys, stop it. I mean, that's
Mhm.
not it's not effective.
You got to
Clearly.
do something strong. You got to do something like you have to hit people where they care.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like they
And you
don't
would
care.
get you
People
would
only do things for themselves,
yeah.
and they don't want. They want their team to win. They want their team to qualify for Europe. They don't want their team to. They pay to go to these games, so they're not going to do anything to hurt. You know, to do things that hurt them.
Right.
Except
Well,
they're stupid enough to.
and you would also create the situation where the it would start to police itself. In other words, if you start
Yes.
to see
Yes.
somebody making monkey chants, you would be like, "Hey, motherfucker,
Yeah.
shut the fuck up. We're
Yeah.
gonna lose points here." Because because it's only 1% of the crowd anyway.
Yeah.
But the other 99% would be motivated to
Mhm.
stop that 1% before it got out of hand.
It would be fun to see someone who's racist beat up someone who's more racist because they're causing their team to lose points. So I'm down.
You finally see white people think of racism as a real problem.
Yeah. Any way to do it. Any way to do it, man. And so, you know, besides that, just going into the game itself, uh, like Frank Lampard changed up his system
Hmm.
and he put three defenders in the back. And I'm not big on tactical stuff. I listen to it. Like when I'm watching a game, I don't know what's really going on tactically till I listen to a lot of people talking afterwards. They put three in the back, and I did see that. No, those are his three pretty much best defenders, and then he had two. Pretty much played five at the back with you know the
Hmm.
full backs going into the midfield and forward. And Alonso's really good at going forward. He's not that good of a defender, but everything was covered with those three: Rudiger, Tomori, and Zuma, and you know, and he left Jorginho out the game and then put him in back to later because he had to
You're in a
compensate for.
pretty good spot when you can leave Jorginho on the bench. You know
Right.
what I mean? And still
Yeah.
be strong because that guy is a stud. So
Yeah.
he's got a good problem in the midfield for sure.
Yeah.
Those guys are. I think that's the best part of his team. It's set up pretty nicely right now because
Mhm.
Kovacic or however.
Kovacic, yeah.
Yeah, he is. He's turned into a real player,
Yeah, yeah,
and N'Golo Kante has been great for a couple of years.
yeah,
So you
yeah.
can put him in a more attacking position,
Mhm.
and he fits right in there. So
Yeah.
they're looking good, man.
Yeah, they're looking good, and they like in this game when you have to worry about Son, who's making these Hazard-like runs, a
Hmm.
player they don't have no more, and you have Harry Kane, who's full of goals, and Dele Alli, he's been more attacking. They just wanted to make sure,
Yeah,
hey, we gotta. And Chelsea's been kind of leaking goals. They've been
yeah,
scoring goals, or they've been leaking goals. It's like we gotta shut this down,
right.
you know. So so then he kind of outclassed his teacher, and the players came through, and Willian, who's been taking a bashing even like I like William,
Hmm.
but there's Chelsea fans who watch Chelsea closely. They have issues with William,
Hmm.
but on the surface, I always like, man, this guy's a really good player. I'd love to have him on Man U. And he just came through and put on a William masterclass. So Neil Chakrabarti, who did text me and admitted that he had no choice. William just had an outstanding game, scored both goals, you know, and put
The
away the
first goal was
penalty.
really, really nice.
Yeah, yeah. Like to me, William plays like I'm playing a video game.
Uh huh.
You know, like if you were really good at FIFA, that's how William would play.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah, he's good. I was sad that Pulisic didn't get to play, but
right,
they kind of rotate. They're rotating those guys up front with Mason Mount
right.
and Willian, and but that's why I tune in. That's why I like Chelsea now. Is to
Because of
finally
Pulisic.
see an American that doesn't suck. I used to love watching Clint Dempsey. And I think Pulisic is better than Clint Dempsey.
Yeah, yeah.
But Dempsey was always the guy who would run through a wall for you, and I
Right.
always appreciated that about him.
Mhm.
And there was just after he left, there was just nothing in the Premier League like that for a fan of American players. So
Right.
it's nice to see somebody that's got some skill.
Yeah, and I like Pulisic, and I like I like a player you could see his determination while he's playing,
Mm-hmm.
and it's great that it's an American player
Yeah.
that's playing like that.
Mm-hmm.
So there's just gives hope for.
A slight glimmer.
Yeah, I mean I like it, man. I think he's got skill and he's young. He played Dortmund. Now he's
Yeah.
playing at Chelsea. He scored a bunch of goals, and yeah, he's getting some rest. I think he's better than Mount, but because Mount is English,
Yeah, and Mount
there
played.
might be just international racism there.
That could be, and he also played for Lampard last year at Derby.
Exactly.
So Lampard trusts him and knows him, and he had been on the bench the last couple games with Pulisic playing. So it almost seems like more of a hey, it's the holiday season. You got the Boxing Day matches coming up. You got games right after that. Pulisic had just played in the Champions League qualifier.
Right.
It's like we got to start rotating these guys in. So I didn't think of it as anything like, oh, he's not been up to it. We're going to bench him.
So you didn't think of a white on white racism, like I did. Okay, my bad.
I hope that someday we can suffer racism like that, but I don't think this was it.
All right, that's cool. So that's basically. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to cover about that game. William did his thing, and yeah, William did his thing, and then the next big game. I don't know if you heard about this, but I'll let you. I'll talk about it. So the next big game was 3 versus 2, and that was Leicester City versus Man City, and I knew that Man City is a better team than Leicester City, even though Leicester's leading them in the table by I think it was just 4 points at that time, and now.
Yeah, now it's 1.
Now it's a 1 point.
I did watch that game too.
You did watch that game. You damn liar.
I forgot that I watched that on Saturday.
Yeah. I'm glad you did.
That was a good one.
Telemundo?
Nope, I watched that one in English.
Oh, because it was on NBC.
Yeah.
So it was just on a regular terrestrial channel. Yeah.
That was a good game. I think you're right. I think Man City is a better team than Leicester, and I like Leicester. But here's the thing: I want Chelsea to finish top 4, but I love the Jose Mourinho story of. They had to get rid of Pochettino because the team wasn't playing for him, and because of their situation with their new stadium and their money situation, they have to qualify for the Champions League or they're screwed. So they have to get into the top 4, and that's why they brought in Mourinho. And I'm pulling for him to pull it off. Okay. So I want Chelsea in the top 4. I want Tottenham in the top 4. Liverpool obviously is going to be there. So that leaves one other spot, and it's probably yeah.
No, that's not.
I don't think it's going to be them.
Just check.
But so I'm thinking, man, maybe some way there, Tottenham can catch Leicester, and Leicester can fall back to the crowd a little bit, because I don't think they are as good as. No, I think they're as good as Chelsea and Tottenham and everybody else, but I think Man City is still better than everybody else except Liverpool. I think they showed that on Saturday.
Yeah, I think City's definitely better and would eventually pass City. And pass. I think Man City's better and would eventually pass Leicester City. Dealing with 2 teams,
two cities,
2 cities, yeah. And the thing with Leicester is their starting 11 and maybe 2 extra players are pretty good. I don't know if they have that much depth, but they also don't have as many games as these other teams.
Yeah.
So that plays in their favor. It's like this is the perfect storm for them. If they don't have any injuries, then we'll see. Every week, this is like the championship season. It's like every week I'm like, oh, they really are good. And then and that's how the championship season. We didn't believe they would win until they won.
Right.
And I don't believe they'll be in the top 4 until they end up in the top 4.
Right. Well, the year before they won, they almost got relegated.
Yeah.
So it was crazy. That was the craziest season ever for them to get to the top and stay up the top. But one thing about them, I mean, Brendan Rodgers is a good manager.
Right.
Jamie Vardy, when he is hot, he is unstoppable, and he's so fast. And the goal he scored against City on Saturday was beautiful.
Class.
And then on top of that, Kasper Schmeichel is a stud as a keeper. So that can save you a lot of games too. So they've got some good pieces that You know, they can if all of those guys, if those guys get hot and stay hot, then they'll stay up there for sure.
They had the best defense in the league coming into this game, but Man City just have so many points and players that they can hit you at.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they got so much depth. Like, let's click on this thing. Like,
Well,
go into
De Bruyne is when he is feeling it. He's the best fielder in the Premier League.
in the Premier League. Like, you can't fuck with a on point De Bruyne. You know
No.
what I mean? Like, he'll just get at you from anywhere. And then when you can slide, well, they have their defensive issues, but they played Walker, who I think is having a great season.
Mm-hmm.
They slide for Fernandinho back, and he's been playing defense lately.
Mm-hmm.
They had to had to play Otamendi because they had no choice. But Gundogan has like really figured out how to play the holding midfielder, defensive midfielder role pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got Bernardo Silva, Sterling on the same side of the
Raheem
field.
Sterling
Mendy coming forward.
Yeah, he's a beast too. He's so fast.
And Sergio Aguero was injured. Gabriel Jesus has scored in his last few games. And I feel like Pep has always favored Gabriel Jesus because he's the one that brought him in.
Mm-hmm.
And Sergio Aguero, like they had to end up like liking each other, and Sergio Aguero had to deliver in all the ways that Pep wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Like I wonder if when Sergio Aguero was healthy, which he was, he came into this game, is he going to get his starting spot back?
That'll be interesting.
Yeah.
I think he should. I think he deserves it. I think because he's the guy that everybody always says, well, you know, he's getting older, he's probably peaked, and then every season he just comes out and does exactly the same thing he's always done. Score a whole bunch of goals, and when he's in front of the goal, he doesn't miss.
Right.
So, you know, it's hard to get him out of there, but it's not like Gabriel Jesus is you know, nothing. He's pretty good too. So
that's the thing. It's like, do you cool off this young player?
Yeah.
Who's deserves to start and wants to start and didn't come here to sit on the bench all these years? He thought when he came, Silva will be done. I mean, Sergio Aguero will be done, and him and Pep made the agreement. Said, he'll be. And then Sergio Aguero goes on this 5-year scoring streak or 3-year scoring streak, or do you like finally say, you're not old, Sergio Aguero, but we're just gonna stamp your passport that you're old.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, and just because, you know. So
well, one of the things too is then the thing with City is that as especially after this next couple of weeks,
you need both of them.
You do because you go through these next couple of weeks and you see where you are at the going in through January, see how far away Liverpool is from you, and you make an honest assessment about whether you think you can catch them. And if you don't really feel like you can catch them, then you throw everything into the Champions League and you try to win that damn thing.
Right.
And that doesn't mean you would not be trying to win your Premier League games too, but you would really be going for it in the Champions League. And then if that's the case, then you need them both anyway. But you can play like, all right, Gabriel Jesus, if you can be the guy who starts our Premier League games. Because we want to chase Liverpool, but that's not our main goal right now. Our main goal is Champions League. Right. So we're going to put Sergio Aguero into those games, and he's not going to be tired because he's only going to be playing. Is it a whole bunch of?
I don't think Sergio would agree with that.
He might not like it.
Yeah, that sounds like something he won't like. Even if it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
You're never going to make somebody like that agree with that.
Not unless you're Sir Alex Ferguson. You know what I mean? Like who just says what is, and then everyone does it.
Yeah, Scholes, like they had this interview or this documentary about the 5 that came up, and Scholes was like Ferguson would come up to him and say, "I'm not gonna play you today, but I got a game for you. It's 2 weeks from now. I got a game for you. I want you."
Great.
So he'd make you feel like you're perfect for this scenario 2 weeks down the road or whatever it was down the road. Yeah. It's like this mind game, so you wouldn't feel bad about not playing.
Yeah, he's telling you that, but what he's telling you you're really perfect for is sitting on the fucking bench today. You're perfect for that.
Yeah. and then just speaking back on Man City, it's just bananas that they won. They're still third, and Liverpool didn't even play.
Yeah.
And they're still 11 points.
Yeah.
Ahead of Man City.
Yeah. I know, man.
Liverpool was chasing last year. So Klopp got this thing from like he has made no mistakes. The only time he's dropped points was against us,
Yeah.
Manchester United, when it was a tie, and they're just like
Do you
focused.
do you think they have a chance to go all the way without losing a Premier League game?
That's pretty impossible.
Arsenal was the last team to
The
do it,
against
right?
us, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, listen, last year I think maybe they had like maybe one or two losses, and it was just the ties
Yeah,
that
they
killed
had too
them.
many ties. The last Premier League game they lost, I saw this yesterday,
Mhm.
was January 3rd against Manchester City.
Jan-
January 3rd of 2019
right, that
was the
was last
last
year.
Premier League game, last season.
Hmm.
So they've gone almost a full calendar year in the Premier League without losing.
Right.
But, it's over 2 seasons, so it's not quite the same. That the pressure builds if you're going to be going for the mark of the Invincibles. That pressure will build toward the end, even if you've got the title locked up.
I feel like I'm confident that this team is built for pressure now. They've
Hmm.
accepted it. They know how to deal with
They
it.
score late a lot.
They score late a lot, which proves that they never give up. And then they're just like focused. It's hard to score late like every time like that. And they're rotating their team. But what was the question you asked?
Do you think they can go through the entire season without losing?
Yeah, because last season they only lost like twice, I think.
Uh huh.
And this season they're better than last season
Yeah.
and more focused than last season. So I think this season it is possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Like I don't think yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if you only lost like two or three times last season and you're better this season.
Their
Fuck it, why not?
their front three are just
Mm-hmm.
ungodly. Sane and Firmino,
Mm-hmm.
and obviously what's his
Salah.
Salah.
Mm-hmm.
But like Firmino, just sometimes you won't see him in the game for long stretches, and then all of a sudden he is, and he's got the ball, and he makes some sort of absolute masterclass move and shot, and boom, there's the goal. It's just they're killers, man.
Yeah, I also like the defensive work that Firmino does.
Mm-hmm.
Like he works hard for the team
Mm-hmm.
defensively, and he comes back and gets the ball. And then Sadio Mane is on some next level where his determination, like he wants this title, like he's playing like he was in the Liverpool academy, which he's from Southampton, which is basically the Liverpool's academy anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's playing like this has been his club for life.
Yeah.
And
So
he wants this title just as bad as any fan.
That's interesting, though. I didn't see. I've been following. I started following soccer when my kids started playing.
Oh yeah.
And I've always followed
How
sports.
long ago was that?
I think I started really following it closely in the like mid 2000s, early 2000s.
Good time.
And yeah, but so I don't know some of these long histories. So you say that Southampton is like a Liverpool feeder system, essentially, because I know there are the same as like Ajax is a team that
like Van Dijk
came from Southampton.
From Southampton, yeah.
Yeah.
And then some other players on Liverpool from Southampton. Like they just buy them. Southampton just was making players.
Yeah.
So then that's just like the joke. So it's like if you're a Southampton player that ends up on, you're just as a Liverpool academy player as a Southampton player, as a Liverpool academy player. Yeah.
So now what's happening? I don't mean to ask you questions on your podcast.
No,
what's happening with your Manchester United? I argue with my best soccer buddy is a guy you might know. His name's Brian Hennigan. He's Doug Stanhope's business manager. The little Scotsman. That little Scotsman. Oh yeah. He's a Rangers fan, but he's also a Man U fan because he loved Sir Alex Ferguson. So we had a bet at the beginning of the season for dinner at Connie and Ted's. Based on which manager would be fired first, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer or Frank Lampard. And it looks like neither of them now because Solskjaer's got them playing great in big games. It's the Watfords of the world.
It's the Watfords of the world and everything. Well, so I guess we'll get to that game. Somebody was like, Ian, you're making excuses for Manchester United. I'm not making excuses for Liverpool, for Manchester United. It is what it is. We have a young team. They're going to be inconsistent.
Yeah.
We should have bought some creative midfielders at in before the transfer window
Mm-hmm.
closed, and we should try to get one when it opens back in January,
Mm-hmm.
because that's how you beat the teams like Watford and Everton. The
Mm-hmm.
game last week against Everton, I knew it was going to be tough because they have renewed energy, because they had their interim coach,
Yeah.
and he like really like
Yeah, he's nuts.
he's Ferguson's just like really got them like, it's like they're all punching all
Yeah.
through the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
match, and like
Yeah.
they're pumped. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like he injected uh, himself, withdrew blood, and then injected his blood into each one of the players
Yeah, he
and
was
go
like,
out there.
and this is another that my buddy Brian Hennigan has been schooling me on some of these.
Hmm.
That Duncan Ferguson was this player who would just choke you out. Like there's literally pictures of him grabbing the throats of other players during
Right.
the match. Like he would lose his
On
mind
his team.
on his team.
Yeah.
Anybody who
Yeah.
anybody who crossed him, it didn't
Right.
matter. And that sort of energy that he brought to Everton for those couple of games.
Yeah, it's a frenzical energy, and I knew we'd have to face that. And I don't think people are keeping that in mind. They're just like, we should beat Everton, but we're young and we're facing an Everton who's like, and then now we face uh, Nigel Pearson. I think he's the coach of Watford, and Nigel Pearson is not a joke.
Yeah.
Like when you said that Leicester won the league the year the year after they almost got relegated,
Mm-hmm.
Nigel Pearson was the guy who, after December, engineered them from last place to 14th place.
Mm-hmm.
And then he got fired, and then Ranieri took
Right.
over and won. But he saved them from relegation.
Yeah, you can't
and
win
he
the
should have been
Premier
the
League
coach.
if you're in the Championship.
Yeah, exactly. It's tough. People try. It doesn't work that way. Yeah. So, and that was his team that won. You know, so
And
this
he's
guy
new
is
at Watford. He hasn't been.
he's new at Watford. Like they just gave him the job like 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago.
So there's some energy in Watford's side as well, because
Yeah.
now they're playing for a guy that they think, well,
They
you know,
tied the first game, I think,
Yeah.
and then they lost to City. But the loss to City, Man City. Let me see. Let me find it. Yeah. Let me see. So I'm just. That's awesome.
just scroll all the way down to the bottom.
I'll go to the bottom. Yeah. So they tied to.
Well,
They lost to Liverpool.
Yeah,
They lost. So you're gonna lose to Liverpool.
And they played well in that game
But
too.
they
I
played
think.
well in that game.
Mhm.
So you could see this coming. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? But still, that's no excuse for Man U. Like, listen, we have these great results, and there's a lot of different ways. There's more than one way to look at it. There's a macro way to look at it, and there's which one's the bigger picture? Macro's the big picture.
Yeah,
and
micro's
and
small.
micro's the small, right? So if you look at the micro, right, the small, you're like, fuck, we lost to goddamn Watford, who has only won probably one game all season, and now we're to a team that has never taken the lead all season at home and hasn't won at home all season,
Uh-huh.
and they did both those things to us.
Uh-huh.
And but you can look at it that way and be upset, which initially, yeah, to wake up 6 a.m. in the morning and have my morning run from 6 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
on leading into Christmas is pretty terrible. But then, if I look at the last 6 games before this, we were undefeated. We beat City. We won Europe in the Europa League.
Mm-hmm.
We've won in the League Cup in Colchester midweek, and we looked pretty good there. Scored some goals, and so it's like, I just don't want to be as emotional as everybody
Right.
else. I want to look at the big picture, and we're going to continue to struggle. Pogba's back.
What do you think about him?
I think he wants to leave for two reasons. Because he feels as an organization, he's a winner. He wants to win. So as an organization, he feels like, Man U don't have their shit together. And when he's looking at the future of Man U, he's like, I want to go somewhere where I know they're going to do everything to win.
Right.
And that I can have the best career possible. And then, people are putting sometimes the people he has to pass to are not on his caliber, and he's not getting
Yeah.
the balls back. But I do think the team we have this year is better than the team we have last year because now Fred has gotten better
Mm-hmm.
and McTominay's coming on, even though
Yeah.
McTominay's going to still show immaturity. So then I feel like now that he's back, please, Solskjaer, for our Christmas, for Man U's Christmas, put Pogba at 10.
Yeah.
We have the two holding guys.
Yep.
Put Pogba at 10. Let's get these next 6 points. Let's guarantee some wins.
So then you put Rashford, Martial, and James
yes.
across the top.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
cut out this Lingard thing. Like, listen, man. I don't want to.
Jesse Lingard hasn't scored in a long time.
Yeah, and he just had a one-on-one with the keeper and tried to chip it over the keeper. And
Instead of going around him.
Instead of going around, you could have went around. It's just like that. Those type. It's that's uh, uh just a just a slide of his decision making throughout all the games. It's a microscopic slide of like typical Jesse Lingard decision making. He just don't got it.
Right.
Like to be a top player in a top team, you gotta have that thing. And to be honest, De Gea, who made a mistake, he might not have it. I think De Gea is a good goalkeeper. Let me try it. He's a good goalkeeper, but I don't know if he has the determination. You know what I'm talking when you see the determination that Gerard showed or Pulisic showed or just characteristic of Man U teams in the past. I don't think he's got that thing. He's a good goalkeeper athletically, but here, like to have that thing where you say we ain't gonna lose today type of thing.
Yeah, every once in a while he makes one of those mistakes like he did Saturday or Sunday where you're just like, what were you thinking about when that happened?
Right.
You know, your head's not in this.
Yeah. So it's like I don't know if he has it. And then fine, he let that ball in, but I was like, he's gonna save this penalty.
Mm-hmm.
And the way it didn't even seem like he tried to save the penalty.
Mm-hmm.
He just dived right. And nothing. There was just nothing in there.
When I started following, it was when my kids played, and my daughter was a keeper.
Oh yeah.
And we always tried to teach her how to dive for penalties.
Right.
But she never really did it. She would mostly. I love her so much, but she would mostly fall over to one side. You know what I mean? It's like you have to bend your knees and launch yourself.
He didn't bend his knees.
That's what I mean. Like when my daughter she would be like, "That's a dive." Like, no, you pretty much just fell like a tree. So that's kind of what.
Did someone chop her down? Did somebody yell for?
No one should be comparing your penalty saving abilities to Olivia Erickson. So yeah, get better.
Is she still a keeper?
No, she's an intensive care unit nurse. So she was a keeper all the way through her high school. She even played a club in college, but not but just for fun.
And she was keeper.
She was a keeper, yeah. That's just because she sucked at the rest of the game and she realized it. So she's like, oh, I can just be the keeper. Nobody else wanted to do it. You know how like with little kids being keeper is cool because you get to catch the ball and you get to hold it, you get to punt it and all that stuff. And it was all right. So yeah. But I'll tell you one thing. When you're a parent and your kid is playing, keeper is the worst position.
Oh,
because your kid is either totally not involved in the play at all,
right,
or the most important player on the pitch.
Oh,
so it's like long stretches of inaction, punctuated by short bursts
moments
of terror. Because then when your kid screws up, and all the other parents are looking at you like, "Jesus, what a weird," and you're like, So yeah,
that's a great description. I never thought of it like that. That's hilarious. I just won't have a kid who's a keeper.
Yeah, get him out there in the field,
get
man.
in the middle of the field.
You need to be a midfielder.
Yeah, play it safe. So who's next? Who's next in the list of important things that happened this week? Let me slide down. So we talked about Liverpool. We talked about Man City, Leicester. We talked about Man United. We talked about racism. We talked about Tottenham, Chelsea, and we'll just go through some teams like Wolves. Uh, they beat Norwich, and first Norwich took the lead, and Cantwell scored. And if you ever get a chance, even though Norwich is like where are
They're
they?
second to bottom.
Second to bottom, they're still an attractive watch. Like I think football has changed,
Mm-hmm.
where normally when you're a team at the bottom, you just play shit football.
Mm-hmm.
But there's some teams at the bottom of the table that are playing some pretty decent football. And
Yeah.
Norwich is one of them. They got some
Who's that
players.
goal scorer they have?
Pookie.
Pookie, yeah.
But there's this other kid named Cantwell, and they have Buendia, and they just, Wolves is just a professional soccer team.
Yeah, I like their manager.
Yeah, I think what they finished last year, like seventh or sixth.
Yeah.
Like that was their first year in the league, and now where are they in the table right
They're
now?
right up there too.
They're right up there too. So that's who. Yeah, they're six.
Yeah, and you almost got to feel like Sheffield United's ahead of them. Will they still be there in 2 months, or will they fall back toward the middle a little bit more? Do they really belong fifth? I mean,
I believe they'll stay there in that area more than I believe that Leicester will stay in the fourth area. Because Sheffield is just handling their business.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they played Brighton Hove, I think, this week. Let's see, make sure Brighton Hove, and they won. And they're beating the tough, bad teams.
Right.
There's some tough bad like there's teams like Burnley, Brighton Hove,
Bournemouth.
That could give you trouble, and they're beating those.
So they're grinding out wins.
Yes.
As they say.
And then they can get results from some of the bigger teams, and they haven't lost on the road.
Really?
Yeah. The road is their home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's
points. Pretty impressive.
That's pretty impressive, yeah. And they're just like, it's another team that plays every week as if they got a new manager.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like the energy is all out. And it's good football, too.
Yeah. Well, I always like it when there's a new team to the top group.
Right.
Because my teams that I like, I change. I don't have one team.
Right.
I'm not a bandwagon jumper. I just usually cheer for whatever team
got
an American on it.
They'd hang you in the town square in England.
Yeah.
But I understand that.
Well, my team was, because of that, my team was always Fulham. Mm-hmm. So, but that's been a bit of a rough stretch here the last couple years. So, because when I first started following is when Brian McBride was playing for Fulham. And I always liked him because that was right when I started. He was another guy who would just run through a wall for you too. He would do whatever it took. And then they got Dempsey, and I'm like, all right, this is my team. And then it hasn't been easy to follow Fulham.
It's tough to follow. It's tough to follow Fulham. Like, I don't know what league they're in, but they don't show that here.
Whatever it is, so it's not on.
Yeah, so you're gonna have to adopt a Premiership team until Fulham comes back.
That's it.
Yeah.
I follow. Well, they were here last year, but barely. Mm-hmm. I mean, they made it.
When did they go down? Last year or the year before?
Last year.
Yeah,
they were in the Premier League last year, but they were as good as relegated by like February.
Right.
So it's just like, this is not good.
Yeah. So who's your team now?
Chelsea.
All right.
Yeah. Again, I always did like Lampard too. So like Lampard's the kind of player that I appreciate. The kind of no nonsense, very high work rate on the field, great skills. Wasn't a dirty player at all. Didn't act like he was, hurt when he got, clattered into, that kind of thing. So I'm glad that he's good at managing, because sometimes great players aren't good at managing. But so I was cheering for him to be good at it. And then when they got Pulisic, I'm like, all right, let's start.
I'm glad that he's good at it, and I'm glad that Man U beat him the 2 times that we played. so I'm
that first game of the season, man, it wasn't looking good for Lampard. It was like a 4-0 thrashing. It's like,
but we could have lost that game as much as we won that game. And that's what I saw when I saw. Look, they just didn't take their chances, and this could have been a bad day for us. And the other thing about the Chelsea-Tottenham game that I forgot to mention was, like, a lot of people thought, like, Tottenham was going to win that game. But I thought that Chelsea had to win that game. They had to win that game because they had lost 4 out of 5,
Yeah.
and they had to do and come out with something. So it was just it's tough to play a team that is good and had lost 4 out of 5.
Right.
Yeah, like they're gonna do something.
Hmm.
They're gonna play more harder than you.
Right,
Yeah,
and there's a natural return to normalcy. In other words, they're better than a team that loses 4 out of 5. So
exactly,
eventually, they're going to play a game where they do put it all together again. They're
exactly,
not going to be bad every week. They're better
exactly.
than that. So it turns out they were due for that, and
Yeah,
that's what happened to Tottenham.
because last week they lost to Bournemouth on like I want to say it's a freak goal, but it was a good goal.
Hmm.
But it's kind of like a freak goal.
Yeah.
It's just like a split second lack in concentration, and
Hmm.
Bournemouth gets the win.
Yeah, but also they didn't score so in
Mm-hmm.
that game. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
one of the things you have to get at least one in.
yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Chelsea needs like another scorer and shit.
Yeah, yeah. That what's the Batshuayi or whatever?
Yeah,
Like
I
they
know.
keep wanting him to be good,
Right.
and he's not. And Olivier Giroud is probably on the way out the door
Yeah, that's not
in
happening.
January.
It's Giroud things not happening.
No,
Yeah.
no. I mean, I like him,
Yeah.
but he doesn't really fit what they're doing, and they've got all these young guys, and they want these young guys to play. So.
Right. Yeah, he's never gonna really get a chance
Mm-mm.
unless something surprise. There's always those surprises where
Injuries
you
is
think a
the
player is
only
done.
way. If he stays, the
Yeah.
only way he's going to play is if those other two guys are injured.
I mean, the only way if he plays for Chelsea right now is if they just rename Chelsea France, and then he'll get in the team because he plays for
Yeah.
France and he scores for
Yeah.
France. I guess the other big thing this week is Everton versus Arsenal, and it's big because both teams were in a free fall
Mm-hmm.
down the table, and both teams have appointed new managers.
Mm-hmm.
Arsenal has Arteta, and Everton has probably the biggest coach they've ever had, Carlo Ancelotti. He's
Mm-hmm.
won 3 Champions Leagues at least. He's coached Real Madrid, AC Milan, and he's won titles in those leagues. And this is huge for Everton. But is it a right? Is he a right fit for Everton? Because some people are saying Ancelotti has always gone to teams that has the players that he needs
Already.
to take them, and then this is more like a building job, or is it a build job? Maybe it's a galvanizing job.
Mm-hmm.
Like this team, Everton always felt like they had like mismatched players, but a good coach can make mismatched players work.
Right.
But I think there's something he said at the game when he watched the game.
What he said? What did he say? What have I done? Because
Well,
that game was. They were both teams were terrible in that game.
Well, at least Everton has the energy, right? But Ancelotti's lately has been by Bayern Munich. They were like he was a lazy coach. Like they had to go and train themselves after his training
because they weren't doing enough.
They felt they weren't doing enough. So I don't know. First of all, I don't know which Ancelotti you're getting. I don't know if you're getting like the title winning Ancelotti or
is he cashing a check?
Cashing a check.
Yeah.
Ancelotti, right? So I hope it's title winning Ancelotti. But he even said something like, I like what we got. He's mentioned something about he wants to get different players. Like I know that for a fact. And then Martin, who did the show with me last week, so I felt this was a wrong fit, but I know Everton is trying. They are. A lot of teams get shit for, this is a lot of different thoughts, but a lot of teams get shit. Like they say, oh, the team's not spending money, that they're not doing this and they're not doing that from the fans. But it's not that's not the fact. The fact is the teams have spent money and made moves, but they spent the money in the wrong places and made the wrong moves. And that's what Everton has done.
Yeah.
Like people, West Ham fans might shit on West Ham, but West Ham got a new stadium. They spent money on coaches, got the wrong coaches. They spent money on players, and that's not working out. But ultimately, the thing that the fans have accused these teams of doing is not accurate. They've spent money. So Everton spends money, and they bought players. Now let's see if Ancelotti can kind of get a team in there that could guide them in the right direction.
Mm-hmm. That'll be interesting.
It'll be interesting. And what do you think about Arteta at
Yeah,
Arsenal.
it's interesting to me. I was kind of hoping that both of those teams would keep the managers they had
Oh
because
yeah,
they were just so interesting. Duncan Ferguson's a maniac, and that
right.
would be fun to watch. And what is it, Freddie
Youngberg,
Lundberg?
yeah, yes,
Like that's all right. He's got Arsenal history,
hmm
so it's like I was kind of hoping he would get to we get a chance to see what he would do. So and I don't know. I guess Arteta's been sitting on the bench next to Pep, right, for a while. That should
if you
that
wanna,
should be a good place to learn what you're
for,
doing.
yeah, and they won some title. If you want to get a coaching job, you just need to sit next to a
Mm-hmm.
coach
Yeah.
that's winning and have
Mm-hmm.
him actually confidently refer to you for
There's always
advice.
a lot of shots of those two talking.
Yeah, talking, and you can say, oh, because I always was impressed. Like I've heard that Pep is not that personable of a guy,
Right.
and there's players, ex-players of his that hate him. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like all he can teach one guy, I forgot who it was. All he can teach is tactics, but on a one-to-one human basis, he's like a robot, and he doesn't. But I'm like, uh, whoever that player was, I forgot what the interview who it was. And maybe that's how he was with you, but him and Mikel Arteta
Yeah.
seem to be homies.
They're vibing.
Yeah, they're vibing. Like I see a real friendship vibe
Or maybe it's
right
just
there.
that every time Arteta notices the camera's on, he just asks Pep a question, so it looks like they're having a
Or he
conversation. And Pep,
answers a question that was never asked by
yeah,
Pep.
yeah, and Pep's like, "Wait, shut the fuck up!" But you don't see what they're talking about. But it looks like they're
It
talking.
seemed pretty genuine enough for Arsenal to
Did
say this ex-player who's has some title-winning pedigree. Like, listen,
He was a
if you can't
midfielder
get
too,
yeah,
so like you see
and
the
he was
whole
really
game from
fucking
that
good.
position,
He was really good.
and he did play cerebrally, like
Yeah.
it wasn't just a pure skill level thing,
hmm
so that should translate. Same as just like Lampard,
Right.
like a guy who plays with his head as much as with his feet. So
Right.
it'll be
And
interesting.
yeah, he has. And then a lot of people are like, Arsenal should have got someone with more experience, but there's no guarantee
Mm-mm.
of someone with more experience. The thing I did like about Arsenal is they didn't let any goals in, which they've been letting
Mm-hmm.
in this game, and like let me go to the players that they use. They use a lot of youth players, and I think that's what the beauty of Youngberg. Like he was a youth coach, so then let's see which one of these
So
10.
he's not afraid to play those guys.
Well, Ljungberg kind of has pointed Arsenal in the direction of some options that they could use to help them fix their defensive problems. You know, so they started Saka, right? And Saka played with desire.
I've never heard of any of those guys except for David Luiz,
Right.
who I think is terrible.
Exactly. But Saka played and he was gutting it out and all over the place. He got a yellow. Normally,
And he's number 77. That
77.
shows that he doesn't play very often right there.
Well, he's a new. He's just straight out the youth system and shit. And he's from the youth system because Youngberg, he was in the youth system with
That's great
Youngberg.
though. Yeah, play those guys.
So he played, and I've seen Maitland Niles play before, but they just said, "Fuck the guys that we bought.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna use these guys," and he just turned the determination level up because that's where they're lacking. And this guy Rowe, I don't, it's the first time I've ever seen him play. And then they went defensive. So defensively they worked. Arsenal just can't score. They can score, but defensively they have problems. So Arteta still has a defensive problem. But if we can get some young defenders from the youth team
Mm-hmm.
to play better than the guys that they bought,
Mm-hmm.
then maybe it's a quicker fix. And maybe they definitely need to buy some defenders.
Yeah.
But good defenders, locate. Like also, fans complain that the team won't spend money, but the team has spent money, and they just spent it on the wrong things.
Mm-hmm.
And they've gotten a new coach.
You
They got
gotta-
their Wenger.
Yeah, you got to have two strong, capable, smart center backs. If you don't have that, the rest of your team is you're gonna
They
be
don't got that.
exposed. They don't got David Luiz is, for all of his talent, is sometimes really, really bad at defense. Really, really bad.
Uh-huh.
And he's a center back. So that when you think about when I first started following when Man U was so good, it was Rio Ferdinand and Nemanja Vidic.
Right.
And you just knew that you were not getting past those two guys.
Right.
That was just, it was a wall. And that to me is how you that's where I would start. If I were starting a team, I'd start with two center backs and then build around that, because that covers up and solves, papers over so many other problems you have on your team.
Yeah, Arsenal's defense looks like a country that's ripe for invasion. And it's like, they look like Kuwait in the '90s when Saddam said, we're going to invade Kuwait. It's going to take us 5 minutes.
No one's gonna care.
Yeah, no one's going to care. We'll get in there. And it's just like, yeah, they have less of a defense than Switzerland. You know? It's like, Jesus. Yeah, so but Arteta's still, he's probably scrambling around. Like, what do you do? Try to coach the people you have, and how much time do you put into coaching the people in your terrible defense, or getting somebody to, hey man, scour the world, the universe, see if there's a soccer version of Space Jam, see if we can get some alien defenders down here, like do something to figure out how we're gonna fix this.
Yeah, those, because I'm looking at those names and I don't recognize any of them. And that's all right, I guess. I don't know enough about Arsenal, but play the young guys. I guess see what happens. Play the young guys.
Their defense is terrible. Yeah, their defense ain't great. And then another. Well, this guy's not American, but he's related to America, and it's.
I'm gonna guess what you're gonna say.
Go ahead.
It's Almiron from Newcastle.
Boom, there you go.
Played at Atlanta.
Yeah, played at Atlanta. Boom, there you go. So he scored his first goal for. He's been over there like almost over a year now, I think. And he scored his first goal for Newcastle. And it happened to be the winning goal. And he's like, he's been dying to score a goal so long, like he just took the yellow for taking his shirt off celebrating. Yeah. But,
yeah, I was happy for him. I've been wanting him to do well too, because
because it's related to him.
Yeah, it's an MLS guy, and which is funny because I don't care about the MLS. Like the MLS pisses me off actively.
Why? How?
Well, first of all, I hate that there isn't relegation. I hate that I think that is such an exciting part about soccer. That's why I fell in love with soccer when I started following it. Is that the teams at the bottom at the end of the season, the most exciting games are the relegation games. It's not even the games at the top anymore. It's like when I think it was Fulham. I can't remember who Fulham was playing. It was like 2006 or 2007, but they scored on a free kick in like the 89th minute. To win a game, to stay just 1 point above relegation, and it saved. They made like $100 million on that kick, and it was like the celebration was out of control, and it just, that kind of stuff is exciting. And MLS they just don't have that, and I think their league suffers for it.
Well, I'm trying to get rid of this red bar at the bottom of the thing, but here's the thing about the Premier League. It's like there's tiers of entertainment. So first tier is the people trying to win the league.
Right.
So then, last few years it's been 6 teams that had a chance to win the league. But then after several weeks, you're like, all right, so it's just 1 or 2 teams race. So then there's that race. So then you're like, all right, then there's the race for top 4.
Right.
So then there's 4 teams fighting to get into top 4. Right, so then there's that race, so you can monitor that throughout the season. And then there's the teams that, all right, you're not going to make top 4, but you still want to play for Europe. So then there's teams in the top 6 trying to hold on to at least top 6, and the teams below the top 6 trying to push their way in.
Right.
So then every game is vital to those teams below and the teams above them. And then you go down the table, and there's the relegation battle, right? And in the relegation battle, it's like that. Like you're talking about that Fulham game.
Yeah.
Like that year, Fulham came 17th.
Yeah.
But they celebrated like they won the Premiership.
Absolutely.
Because they did win the Premiership. They won the $100 million.
Yeah, they got to stay in
for staying in the Premiership. So you won the Premiership.
Yeah.
So then, if you're 3 teams, if you're the last 6 teams. 15 on down to 20, maybe sometimes even more, depending on how close everybody. You're like the last weeks of the season, like just staying in is winning.
Right.
So then there's there's no dead zones really.
Right.
Like there's like it's not like the NFL, and then there's no player. That's why you don't need playoffs too,
Right.
because there's
Absolutely.
so many competitions within the competition.
Yeah, I wish MLS had something like that. And
Hmm.
it's just because how can I give a shit about Orlando City? You know what I mean? Like, how can I care? Because I know they're still going to be there next year. It just so, and how the players don't give a shit either. So it's just the level of play isn't that good either. So
It's getting
it's getting
better,
better.
but you know, like I don't watch Brazilian football, even though some of the best players in the world for have consistently come from Brazil,
Mm-hmm.
because I know the best players in Brazil aren't even in Brazil.
Right.
They're in Europe. Like they
Right.
got bought, and I wouldn't watch Portuguese players, Portuguese league, because I know that the best players from Portugal, even though Portugal is in Europe, are
Still
in
playing in Spain, probably.
Spain and England, and just so it's like, I used to shit on the MLS a lot, but I've become a LAFC fan,
Mm-hmm.
and
I've been to
the
a few games. I went to a few
been
games
to a few
last
games.
year.
Yeah,
It's
and it's a
great.
great environment, and the league has gotten better. But here's an amazing thing: even though I shit on the MLS, I shit on the MLS now because there was no we couldn't get the games from Europe here. And then as more time went on, when I could get the games in Europe, I would just tease the people who were trying to make me watch the MLS to be, hey man, I'm watching Europe, and listen, if I can go to if I'm not gonna watch D League basketball
Right.
if I have the NBA. There's not enough time.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
Yeah. I'm gonna watch the Lakers
I'm
game.
gonna watch the Lakers game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, and if you make it to the so that was my thing. But you know, I'm watching the MLS more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we were talking to Almiron. That's how we got it started on all this.
But Elmoron, yeah.
Yeah, but I was happy for him. I want him to do well. I thought that he was a fun player at Atlanta, and for shitting on the MLS and not thinking it's great.
Mm-hmm.
When he was at Atlanta, they were a team that I liked because they played.
Right.
They didn't spend their money on getting some washed up player from Europe who was on his retirement tour. They got
Right.
young guys. They played quick. They played a beautiful version of the game,
Right.
and they won. So
They
that
won the
was
league.
and that was great. I thought that was
And then
fantastic.
they sold their best
And
player.
then they sold their best player.
And you know, I this is what I got to give Newcastle players credit, fans credit for, because Amron hasn't scored in over a year, but I haven't heard any bad will from the fans to
Mm-hmm.
Almiron. Like normally it's like, oh, he's a bust. We wasted our money, because I think they paid like 60 or 50 million
Yeah.
pounds for him. But also to Almiron's, you know how players play with determination.
Uh-huh.
He plays with determination.
Yeah.
Like he plays like, hey man, I'm not wasting your money. I just can't score, but like I'm doing something every game.
Right.
So the fans weren't disappointed in him up to this point, because they could see how hard he was working.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, that's all you want to see. And I think now that he scored, you could see the relief on him. There was no way he was trying to
Yeah, everybody was happy for
and
him.
everybody was happy. Like it was like having your kid who couldn't get laid, like
Like at the end of the movie Porky's,
Yeah.
when the one kid finally got laid and
Yeah.
everybody cheered.
everybody cheers. You know what I mean? And it's not weird. You know what I'm saying? It's like, oh shit, he got laid. Even the parents of the daughter who had sex with him, like who did Newcastle play? Newcastle played. They played Crystal Palace. Even Crystal Palace fans
Like,
celebrated, and
yeah.
players celebrated with Almiron when he scored.
Yeah.
They lifted him
That's
up like,
funny.
you finally scored, bro. Thank God. And that's the crazy thing. Like, so Man U is above Newcastle in the table, right?
Mm-hmm.
And guess who we play next week? Newcastle.
Ooh.
Yeah. And they beat
That's
us before.
8v9. Ooh, that's exciting.
Yeah. I'm not next week. That's this
That's
coming up.
Wednesday or Thursday.
Yeah, Thursday.
Right?
Or
Boxing
Thursday.
Day.
Yeah, Boxing Day. So there were other games. Let me just do the score of the games I didn't even mention, and then just run through the table, and then that's it. Let's see. So Arsenal, Everton 0-0.
Let me ask you a quick
Liverpool
question.
didn't play West Ham. Go ahead.
This is a thing. This is a theory that I have, or not that I'm trying to.
Do it.
This is what I think would improve
Mhm.
soccer.
Mhm.
I think 0-0 draws
Mhm.
should be no points. I think you should have to, if that, I don't mind 1 point for a draw, but I don't think you should get a point if you don't score. And I think that 0-0 draws I don't think you should get a point for that. I started this last year thinking about it, and then I went through the whole season and I redid the table as if you got no points for 0-0 draws, and it ended up not changing very much. But at the bottom, it flipped a couple of teams at the bottom.
Right.
But I think that like 0-0 games, I think would be a lot more exciting if teams thought that that they weren't going to get a point for that. Like like there would be more, like they would try harder. You know what I mean? Like you're trying like that Everton Arsenal game, or say it's Brighton Hove against Norwich.
I did think Everton and Arsenal were trying to score.
I
just think
that was a bad that was a bad example.
Yeah.
But there are some games where you're just like both teams are kind of happy with a point and they just don't want to lose, so they just kind of kick the ball around a little bit. If they weren't going to get that point for that 0-0, would that liven those games up at all?
It's hard to say because there are teams that are better than other teams, right? There are teams that are better than other teams, and they just can't open themselves up to play Man City or Liverpool.
So they got to go for 0-0.
So they got to go, and I don't even think they're going for 0-0. They'll take the 0-0, but they want to catch them on the break.
Yeah.
And so then there's this whole chess match within the game itself. And then I think I can't remember. I think there used to be no points for a tie, but like a while ago. But I don't even know what to type in to find an answer for that. like when?
Well, didn't it used to be? It used to be 2 points for a win, and 1 for a tie.
So maybe that's what
that's what it was. And then they were like, then teams were too happy with a tie, and that's when they made it 3 for a win to try to.
But I think
to encourage teams to actually go for the win to make it so much more valuable.
That it has made it better. I don't think you need to do anything else. But
it's just interesting.
Once I like something, I like it.
Yeah.
But it is interesting that it didn't change much.
It changed a little bit, but there are some I think you should get a point for a draw. But 0-0 is like, I feel like anytime the score is 0-0, I feel like you should say neither of you teams get anything because nothing fucking happened.
No, it did happen. Like I've seen some interesting 0-0 games. I've seen
seen some snoozers too.
I've seen some snoozer 1-0 games.
Yeah, but but at least somebody did something and earned some points.
But that's like denying the work, just because there's no goals.
I'm willing to deny that work.
That's very American. It's like because that goes back to the scoring system thing. Like in England, fans just want to see their team work. And then defense is a part of work. If your team defended its ass off against like waves and waves and waves of attack, and those players like slid and they were in position, they kept their shape and did everything to stop this Goliath from beating you, and you got a 0-0 tie. You can't say
get nothing.
You can't say nothing happened. You can't say nothing happened. You busted your ass.
Right.
You can't.
But next time you're watching Brighton and Hove and Norwich thrill their way to a 0-0 draw, you tell me.
But then they'll go at each other because they have no respect for each other. They're both like, oh, we could get a point from them. Like the reason why Wolves beat Norwich is because Wolves is great defensively and Norwich disrespectfully went at them, and tried to beat them.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah. It's just when
I was just curious to hear your opinion on that because that's a thing I'm like, 0-0 just always annoys me. I don't feel like I should get anything for that.
One thing, I'll just say the one I had 2 things in my head. One slipped out, but I want to give VAR its props. It just like Chelsea throughout the season is getting better.
Yeah. I think that's true too.
So it's like an expansion team.
Mm-hmm.
They have to gel it. VAR is now overturning calls made on the field,
One thing I really like
which
about it
justifiably
is
should.
the way that they do not do it like American football,
Hmm.
where the head referee goes and looks at the video.
Oh.
Have somebody else looking at the goddamn video and just tell the head referee what they're seeing.
Well, there
Because
is that when it
that's
comes down to
no, but
like a
that's
thing.
but that's how they're doing it. You know, the head ref, center ref, just waits to hear
Right.
what VAR decision
Right.
is. But
Unless there's a decision that they can't make in a booth, then he goes. And
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah.
Because see, American football, I'm like, they always do that. They're like, he runs over to the sideline, he gets in front of the camera, he looks at it. It's like, can you just? You've got a million referees.
There's drama to that, though.
Yeah, I guess that's
and
what it
just
is.
See him run over there.
Yeah.
And put the thing on, and
but that's where we are.
Cover?
That's where we are in America. Our drama is watching a 60-year-old pasty white guy jog over to watch TV.
But listen, I like American football, but there's not a lot of action in American
I
football.
know.
It's all replays.
Yeah.
Of the last action from 5 minutes
It's all
ago
litigiousness
until it's time to do the next piece of action in between commercial breaks.
And then we'll analyze that for another 10 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. But
yeah, I think VAR is getting better.
So give him surprise. He found, I think, even though Sheffield United won 1-0, they were like 2 goals that got called back from them against Brighton Hove, and the Sun thing was right, and then there was another penalty that it held up. So VAR is getting better. VAR had a good week. So for VAR,
Good for
that was a shitty thing. Yeah. Let's run through the tables. So you can just throw in anything you want on the way. But first of all, let me locate who's the big games next week. Let's see. Fixtures. Oh, not even next week. So this is what we got.
Yeah, we got Thursdays.
Yeah, this thing is annoying. This red bar right here.
You got to accept their cookie policy.
I don't want.
You don't want to do that.
But I'll do it now just to get rid of it. Now,
they got you now.
Yeah, they got me. But now I can see the whole screen. So coming up, just big games. It's not even.
Chelsea Southampton, that'll be a pretty good one. That's 4 against 5, right?
Would you? Nah, Southampton's like down at the.
Oh no, I was thinking that was Sheffield United. Yeah, never mind.
All right. I was trying to see if there's any. It's not that it's even noteworthy. Well, Liverpool,
Leicester.
Right, so Liverpool good. fresh off the World Club.
So Leicester has to go from Man City to Liverpool consecutive weeks.
Hey man, if you want to stay in the top 4,
and
if you want to pretend you want to chase for a title, you're gonna have to play some people, and they have to play Liverpool. Liverpool, played I think 3 or 2 games, and then they got to come back from I don't know where
other side of the world.
Other side of the world. So they may be tired, but so we'll see. This might be one of the slips for me.
And they're at Leicester.
And Leicester just lost, so they ain't gonna want to lose again.
Right.
So for me, one of the issues.
And it's Brendan Rodgers managing against his old club.
Squad. Yeah.
There's a lot of there's a lot going on there.
There's a lot of soap opera there.
Yeah.
A lot of soap opera.
That'll be a good one.
Yeah, so that's gonna be a good one. That's gonna be really good. So so for me, I always figured I wanted to see how Liverpool survives the World Club competition, and to me, that's gonna tell me how they're gonna win the title. So they play it at the time is the most busiest time of the year. So they can slip up out. There's going to be so many anywhere.
And they've almost slipped up a couple of other times.
City and Leicester to catch.
Yeah, right on.
This time, yeah. So that people are giving Liverpool the title already, but for me, they have to get through this month.
Mm-hmm.
And if they have the same distance, then I'll be like, all right, it's theirs.
It's done.
If they have the same point total distance, then I'm like, it's done. But if this is where they can get caught.
Man U and Newcastle.
Yeah, we were just talking about that. So Man U, Newcastle. To me, that's big. Man U's
that
8th,
is big.
They're 9th, and so
that'll be a fun game.
I mean, if we win, not if we lose. And then right after that, and then Man City plays Wolves. That's going to be tough, but Man City should be able to pull that off.
That'll be a good game, though.
That'll be a good game. So that's on Friday. And then we go to Saturday, man.
And they all start right back playing again.
It starts right back again. And let's see what's going on down here. Anything. I think what they did was they didn't want any big games, big team matchups.
Yeah.
Except Chelsea has to play Arsenal.
Sunday, Chelsea, Arsenal. That'll be good.
So then Arteta, his first official managerial job is against Chelsea. And then Liverpool has to play Wolves. That's going to be tough.
Mm-hmm.
And Sheffield and Man City on
We'll
Sunday.
find out if Sheffield is a top 4 contender right then and there.
Yeah, I don't think they're top 4, but they can end up in within
In
fifth
Europe,
or sixth. They
Europe
can end
spot.
up in Europe. Yeah, yeah. So that's pretty nice.
It'll be a fun week.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun week. Let's run through the table real quick.
Wait, now that your red bar came back after you already accepted the
How
damn
many times
thing.
am I gonna accept this fucking thing? Son of a bitch. Was that the son of a bitch? Man. Got me eating cookies and shit. Maybe that's why. Okay, it's gone. So Liverpool is 1. They didn't play a lick of football in that hemisphere, in the Premiership hemisphere. They got 49 points. They're 10 points ahead of Leicester, who are second. They have 39 points. They lost to Man City. Man City's third. You know, the crazy thing is Man City beat Leicester and is still trailing them.
Uh-huh.
So that's just the world of football has changed so fast in less than half a season. Chelsea's fourth. They manned up, and the boys became men, and they beat Spurs to retain their fourth spot, and they have 32 points. Sheffield United, brand new team in the Premier League, they are fifth with 28 points. Wolverhampton Wanderers, their second year in the Premier League. That hasn't even played a full season, a full second season. They are sixth in the Premier League with 27 points. Tottenham Hotspur, they are seventh with 26 points after their loss. And Manchester United right behind them, eighth with 25 points. And we got Newcastle coming up. And Newcastle's right behind them with 25 points. And anybody who thought Steve Bruce was going to be a drop-off from Benitez,
yeah,
nobody would have thought this.
Yeah.
This was the number 1 team slated for relegation. They're ninth.
Yeah.
And they could at least be eighth by what is it? Thursday?
Mm-hmm.
So that's fucking bananas. Bananas. Burnley is 10th with 24 points. Arsenal is 11th with 23 points. Let's mark this date, time, space, and time, and see where Arteta is going to take them from there. And I guess one thing I want to say is, hey, Arsenal fans, just as long as you don't get relegated this year, you're fine. You have not the biggest rebuilding job on your hand, but you have a lot of work to do, personnel-wise.
That's a macro. You need to look at it, the macro situation.
So your fans can't be like tripping if Arteta loses the first few games or is inconsistent. Like your whole organization needs work.
Just stay up.
So don't think like a coach is gonna change the personality. Some players' personalities can't be changed. Those players' personalities have been through several coaches and haven't changed. So some of them need to leave, and new ones, the right ones, need to come in. So like Arsenal fans, like I think they look at like even Emery, the way he was treated. Like he was treated based on how much Arsenal hadn't won in the last 10 years, as opposed to his 1.5 years there.
Right.
You know what I mean? They're looking at look at what we have not done in 10 years, including his time, as opposed to let's just look at him at his time.
Right.
And so don't treat Arteta with the trauma that you've experienced over the 10 years. Like, give him time to build this thing.
Right.
Like Klopp needed time at
remember just a year ago they were saying Klopp can't win a big game.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
So
if you want to make this appointment worth the appointment that it is, give Arteta time. You know, it just is what it is. Crystal Palace is 12th for 23 points. Brighton Hove 13th for 20 points. Bournemouth 14th with 19 points. Everton 15th with 19 points. Ancelotti, Everton, that is. West Ham's rested. They didn't have to play.
Oh, because they were going to play Liverpool.
So then they might, this might be good for them to run into to other teams a few days from now.
Mm-hmm.
So They should be a little rested. They got 19 points. Southampton, 17th with 18 points. Aston Villa, 18th with 15 points. That's my homeboy Lloyd team. They lost to Southampton somehow this week. They got blown up the park. It was 3-0 before they knew what would happen. And Jack Grealish scored an amazing goal.
That was a nice goal.
Yeah, pretty good, right? And Norwich and Pukenham, they're 19th. And Watford, they won, but they're still at the bottom of the table. But at least they got more points. They're in double digits now. Were they in double digits before?
No.
No, they weren't. Yeah. So Watford, they're 20th. And fuck you. Yeah, I'm kidding.
When I woke up on Sunday and I saw that score, I was like, I had to like rub my eyes and look at it twice.
Listen,
like,
man,
wait, am I looking at that backwards? You know what I mean? When I first saw it, I was like, oh, 2-0. Like, okay, man, you want? And wait, rub my eyes, look at it again. Like, oh shit.
Listen, as a fan, I had to watch that score happen. and you know what's worse? That adds to insult to injury as watching that score happen is watching the Chelsea. Was it the Chelsea Tottenham game after? And they always flash the scores. So I was like, every time I get that off the screen.
Re-traumatized every 5 minutes.
I'm trying to get past that. Yeah. Anything you want to plug, Eric?
No. I'm here at the Comedy Store a lot. I have a new video podcast called Issues with Andy. It's me and Andy Andrist and Greg Shaley and Chad Shank from the Doug Stanhope podcast. We do it on YouTube every Friday, so check that out.
All right, dope, man. And thank you for being a
guest. It's my pleasure. I was glad you were able to stop in.
Oh yeah.
We don't close like that. Goddamn All Things Comedy.
I know, right? Jesus, All Things Comedy. What the fuck, bro? Everybody, Merry Christmas. Follow me on Instagram at Ian Edwards Comic. Like and subscribe to the video on YouTube. Listen on SoundCloud, iTunes, Libsyn, Stitcher, and Merry Christmas, man. Whether you're Christian or not, or whatever, just enjoy the time off. So that's what they call Christmas time is what they call it.
That's it. Yeah, happy Boxing Day.
Yeah, happy Boxing Day. Because hopefully it's a happy Boxing Day.
You bet.
All right, peace, man.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, thank you, man. Really appreciate it. Oh.
Dude, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's fun, man. Oh, good shit.
Right on.
Yeah, I'm glad you said something.
Yeah, I wasn't sure when you said you were coming in. I was like, I wasn't sure what it was you were doing. I was like, oh, I hope it's soccer.
Oh, yeah.